All religion is a foolish answer to a foolish question. Thomas Shelby. We are here with Dollar Bill Boyer. How you doing, Dollar Bill?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
What's going on? I haven't seen you in a couple months.
Probably not since the what was your show called? The
Owens Challenge.
Owens Challenge. Yeah. I don't think since then.
Did you end up winning that one? Or you were in Shoemaker's class, right?
Yeah. Well,
Shoemaker came in, was a dickhead, and
he when you're going against like an 850-pound deadlifter.
Yeah.
I think he was first. Dougie Groves was second.
Oh yeah.
Same guy took. I was behind Doug at your Highlander as well.
Right.
So I think I was third behind them, which is decent, I suppose. But
right.
It was an awesome event.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was those guys. Man, it was in the middle of that snowstorm too. So
yeah.
Friday night, it was. I was surprised we had so many people come in for it. I figured we'd have some cancellations, but everyone showed up and ended up being probably the most competitive one we've ever had, as far as some really good. Because you've won a couple of our shows before.
Yeah, I won that one last year.
Yeah.
And so it's good to. If you're improving, but other guys, show up and make it more competitive, it's good
absolutely.
for sure. Yeah, my parents even made the trip from Pittsburgh in the middle of the snowstorm, so that was
Jesus Christ.
Cool for them to be there.
People were. I couldn't believe we had almost no shows, which was, that was. And to be honest with you, when you decide to have a event in January in Cleveland, we knew right off the bat that eventually something horrible was going to happen. And as far as horrible things go, we had like 7-8 inches of snow in just a matter of hours. And as far as bad things going, I guess when you have almost no shows in that kind of weather, it was great. But how'd you get into this stuff to begin with? We met a couple years ago. You just kind of
it was probably
emailed me and said I want to come out.
Yeah, it was probably 2 years ago. I was getting ready for Massachusetts State Strongman Championship.
That's right.
So my buddy Gable was he was in residency. He's a doctor. He was in residency up there, so I used to go up to Massachusetts once a year. But in terms of how I got into it, it's probably like opposite of you. I think I listened to you one time. You were talking about the name of the Refined Savage, and saying that like at one point in your life you were like a caveman, just kind of like a meathead, right. And then you transitioned to kind of reading more, right. Trying to diversify.
You kind of realize that life is more than your powerlifting total or your heaviest out.
So I probably am the exact opposite, because by the time I graduated high school, I was like, in the trivia club and doing high school musicals and
right. Shit.
Yeah,
really?
I was even in a barbershop quartet.
Really?
And so needless to say, women loved me and other men wanted to be me. I basically did every dorky thing you could ever imagine. And
what school did you go to?
I'm from Pittsburgh, so I went to high school out there.
Okay.
So then I went to so I did all those pretty nerdy things, and so then I went off to college, and that was the first time I was kind of your friend group kind of transitions or something like that. So
right.
And I'm still good friends with all my buddies from high school, but it was just it's like the crew from Revenge of the Nerds.
Right.
It was that was basically the friend group. And so then in college, I started having some other friends that some buddies that were on the football team even, and then after my freshman year, when I was going home for summer, I just it's like something snapped,
mm-hmm.
and I just kind of figured that I wanted to start working out something. And so one of my fraternity brothers was on the football team. I was like, hey, can you just tell me what to do, and
right.
kind of show me around. And so he wrote something down, and then I started right after freshman year in the summer, and that was 10 years ago, and I've trained at least 3 or 4 days a week ever since, nonstop.
Yeah.
So just something snapped. And
then how'd you end up finding Strongman?
That's also kind of a weird story, because when I started college, I was probably 165 pounds maybe.
Yeah.
Then I started lifting in college and eating everything I could, and so I probably got up to 225. So I just put on all this weight, and it was a good time.
Yeah.
And it's so easy when you start out, you just eat everything you can, and you're adding pounds to your body and pounds to your total all
It's
the time.
a little bit of a job, though. I mean, kids don't understand that. You got to eat.
Yeah, but college is a good time to do it
Yeah, right.
because I was on these like meal plans, and I'm like the only person, like me and some of my lifting buddies were like the only people that used all of our meals.
Right.
We got like, it was like 20 meals a week, and most people used maybe 5. And
Yep.
I was like, hey, can I borrow some of your meal pass thing? And so by the end of college, I was finishing like my accounting degree and stuff, and I was like thinking that I'm just going to go in the working world and I don't need to carry all this weight with me.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, it probably makes sense for me to like drop some weight and then like go into the working world. And so my aunt for Christmas one year actually got me a session with like a personal trainer, and so I went and I had like this session with him, and what I told him, I was like, well, I put on all this muscle, I gained a lot of weight, but I'm thinking, now maybe I just want to start doing a little bit more cardio, like as stupid as this sounds in retrospect, or do some more conditioning stuff or so. So he was taking me through like this circuit workout and stuff like that, and then like in their gym on the wall there's a picture of him. What I know now is he's doing a log press. And I was like, what are you doing here? And he started telling me, he was like, oh, this, I competed in a local strongman show. I was like, you mean like the guys that are on World's Strongest Man?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, there's actually weight classes. So long story short, because of that, then I looked up, I found, North American Strongman, and I just called up my buddy Gable and was like, hey, we got to do this. So I went in there thinking I was gonna like drop some weight and get lean, and then came out of there like full-fledged into strongman. So it was 2011, and so for the past
and then you were training
7 years or so.
How'd you end up in Cleveland then? Did you go to school here?
Yeah, I went to Case Western.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then you ended up training. What's the gym in Menor that you were at? It used to be, I don't know if it's still even there. Wasn't there a big strongman gym out there?
Titans.
Titans, right?
Yeah. So I go to one downtown.
Okay.
I live downtown, and there's a Titans right downtown, which is it's a pretty run-of-the-mill commercial gym, but it's like 24/7.
Yeah.
Which is big because a lot of times I end up lifting at like, I don't know, 10 to midnight during the weeks. And but they do have another facility out in Menor, but it's the strongman stuff all belongs to like a crew out there.
Oh,
so
okay.
which is understandable. They
that's
lock it up
is.
They lock it up so just they can use it, and I can't make the times when they work out.
Yeah, that's usually the way most strongmen. Well, I mean,
everyone other than you basically.
Yeah, but the evolution of there being strongman gyms is such a new phenomenon. I mean, you didn't see that. Well, you didn't see it pre-CrossFit certainly. And it's probably in the last 5-6 years that's actually happened, where gyms have strongman equipment just lying around that you can train with. The majority of gyms still lock up their stuff for a variety of reasons, but I mean, if I had my stuff in some commercial gym, I certainly wouldn't want some of the people you see in a commercial gym going in there and playing with it.
Yeah, so I actually have my buddy and I have a few pieces of equipment that we actually keep in the Titans downtown, and so I have a log, like just a rogue log.
Yeah.
And an axle
Worst
bar.
Logs in the history
of
the world. They're horrible.
They're terrible to clean, but I didn't know that when I bought it. But it's hilarious, and I don't lock it up because it's so hilarious to see what people do with it. Like, no one knows what it is.
You're just setting traps.
Right. I've seen people do like curls with it. I've literally seen someone like on a preacher curl machine with my log, and I love every minute of it.
Right.
Sometimes I go out and like, if I happen to need it that day, I'll go ask for it back. But otherwise, I'll just.
You should set up like trail cams where you can watch it from your house.
Someone was they were using it to. I even someone did squats with it, which I thought would be impossible.
I didn't know how you could do
your
that.
shoulders have to be so flexible that you can hold it on your back and still hold his handles. And I've seen someone do if you like are lying on your back on the floor, and then you're holding the log above you, almost in like a bench press position, and then you raise your feet, so you're doing like I don't know why you need to do that with a log as opposed to
like a PVC pipe.
Yeah, or just like a 20-pound weight or
right. Anything. You don't need that 65.
So that's kind of fun for me to just see what other people do with it.
those road logs are very convenient. We've got a ton of them here, and I hate them. And it's not like a design flaw by Rogue. It's just a very difficult log. And the thing that I love about them is the fact that you use those logs, and then you go to a competition with a regular log.
And you set PRs.
Oh my God! Literally, when I did my first strongman competition, where I was trying to.
That you were promoting or competing?
Well, no, that was going to qualify for nationals or whatever stupid thing. I went to Shoemakers, and you had to do a log press for reps, and I think it was at 265. And here at the gym, that was pretty much maxing out on the log for me, and I got the Shoemakers, and I did it like 12 times, and it just because the logs are so much bigger that you don't, the range of motion is so much nice. So I hate the road logs. Those are they're super tough to deal with. Everybody hates those when we have competitions with them. But.
Yeah, I did the same thing. There was a show in Pittsburgh, the Kumite Classic. It's like a
fantastic name.
Yeah, it's like this mini Arnold. So it's like at a convention center. And so you got like this strongman over here, and then there's like the bikini girls on like the left side, and my mom's in there like, what? I'm like, Bill, why are these girls gonna lift weights in these wearing their underwear? Like, no, Mom, they're like doing something else.
They look
like focus
nice
over
girls.
here.
Yeah. You should go get their number.
Right. My dad's probably like, which way did you say they were?
Where were the bikini
anyways,
girls?
Yeah, it was same deal. It was like a 250 log or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was probably about a max, and then I got there, and the clean is so easy on a big
See,
log.
that's I have a real difficult time with the clean in general, but with the road logs, it makes it so much more difficult. Now, so tell me about. So you're diabetic, right?
Yeah.
So explain what you got going on. I always, I noticed reverse. I don't think we've ever talked about it, but I always noticed you had the.
Yeah, I have an insulin pump, and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 7. And, when most people talk about diabetes, generally they talk about type 2,
right.
which is which means your body still produces insulin, but because of being fat or other reasons, your body's like less sensitive to it, and so it's not using the insulin enough. Whereas type 1 is a autoimmune disease in which basically your immune system, like white blood cells, like attack your pancreas to a degree and kind of shut down the insulin production of that.
Okay.
So yeah, basically when I was 7, you start getting really dehydrated, and you start wetting the bed again at 7 years old, which is like not supposed to happen.
Sure, yeah.
And so I went to the doctor. I was type 1 diabetic, and I lived with that ever since. I took injections up until I was 13. So you test your blood sugar, and then you inject insulin. And then when I was 13, I got on the pump, which looks like a beeper. Mm-hmm. It was it's kind of funny. It was intentionally made to look like a beeper because it was made. It was like the concept started at the time when beepers were around, and now beepers are at least 25 years.
Yeah, it's amazing that they haven't morphed that into something even smaller now.
Yeah, it's just like everything. It goes a lot faster in non-U.S. places because everything in the U.S. has to be tested so many times by the the FDA or what other government.
Someone's got to make money off it before.
Yeah, so basically starting when I was 7, I was kind of learning to count carbs and things like that.
Yeah.
And
what effect has it had effect on your training or your? I mean, it's got to have effect on your diet and.
Yeah.
Like when you were gaining weight, was it an issue?
If you do it right, you can do everything and anything that a normal person can do. A lot of people have terrible control of it, and which is just like a discipline thing with everything else. Like if you're the type of person that can work out 4 times a week regularly and eat a clean diet and brush your teeth and floss every night. If you have the discipline to do that, then you have the discipline to control diabetes. But a lot of people don't have the discipline to do that. So then they would be terrible.
Well, and that's where the majority
A
of
lot of
your
people are,
type 2 diabetics come from. It's just people who aren't
Yeah.
disciplined and they eat themselves into that.
Yeah. So if everything goes right, it doesn't have any effect on my training really, but it is like it's another thing that I have to watch, and so I've messed around a ton with like different types of diets, for instance, and like what's working recently is like a high fat, high protein diet, almost like no carbs,
Right.
other than vegetables. Because what happens, it's just like the carbs add another variable. So if I eat carbohydrates, I have to give myself insulin, which is fine. But then it's never like it's not really like a scientific formula. Like I know in general, if I eat 8 carbohydrates, I need 1 unit of insulin, which is like a milliliter or 1/100th of a milliliter or whatever that is. But it's never like an exact science. And so the easiest way I've found is to just you reduce the number of variables,
Right. Yeah.
by limiting carbohydrates, and then because what would happen otherwise, like I went through a period when I tried like more like a bodybuilder diet or something like that, where it's like 6 meals a day and then you have carbs in there, and then because of all the carbs you end up with, every time you eat carbs I got to give myself insulin, and then when you get in the gym, even if you have some carbs while you're lifting, when you start working out, your body becomes super sensitive to the insulin, and so it starts like the insulin works really well, and so then it just takes all the blood sugar out of your blood, out of your blood into your muscles, and so then my blood sugar would tank as a result of that. So so anyway, try to simplify it as best I can and just not have
that's
recently.
That's basically how I got on the diet I was on, was that I was just super the insulin would kick on and would not kick off until I was passed out,
Yeah.
And it just made life so much easier just to get rid of the carbs and the sugar, and well, now I don't have any problems.
That's same. I'm probably like that. It's just probably like times 5 or something like that.
Right.
Whereas like if my blood sugar goes low, I'd literally pass out and
Yeah.
just be on the floor, and the ambulance would have to
Well,
come
we
in.
had your friend Bridget in here. Say her last name for me.
It's Tiggemeyer.
Tigam. I could never say that. I was doing that to her on the show, and she was really interesting. If people want to go back and check out her episode, she's a dietitian who talked a lot about. She had gotten into the ketogenic diet and low carb diet. She's cycling it, so she would go low, very ketogenic for about 3 weeks, and then drop a week of normal carbohydrates in, and she was even getting better results from that. You see that a lot with people, but I know for me personally, using the carbohydrates in general in any way screws me up. I remember the last time I voluntarily ate carbohydrates was at Thanksgiving 2 years ago, and I ate some of my mother-in-law's stuffing, and it screwed me up for 2 days. I mean, I just felt like absolute garbage.
Yeah, I'm not nearly that strict. I'd say at least like every weekend I'll.
Well, you're a beer drinker, right?
I prefer like whiskey over beer, but I mean, I'll go out with my buddies and get brunch and have some waffles and fried chicken or something like that. So, but in the weeks, like during the weeks, I don't really have any carbs right now.
Yeah, right.
But I experiment with other things. It's funny because I mean the diets like that have been around forever.
They have, yeah.
And for whatever reason, like recently, the ketogenic diet has popped up, and I'm certainly would never say I'm on a ketogenic diet because I'm not like getting the keto strips out.
Right.
I used to do that when I was 7, because when you're a type 1 diabetic, you can go into DKA, which is diabetic ketoacidosis.
Right.
Which in like a normal person, you would start excreting ketones. I think when you're not giving your body glucose through the form of carbs, and so then your liver, I believe, releases the ketones in your bloodstream.
Right.
So whereas in a diabetic, what can happen is you could have all the glucose, you could eat a package of Oreos and so you have tons of glucose in your bloodstream. But without the insulin in there, if you're not giving yourself insulin, the glucose can't get out of the bloodstream into the muscles.
Mm-hmm.
So even though there's plenty of glucose in there, your body can't use it
Right.
because it needs the insulin to use it. So then, because of that, your liver releases ketones, and so then when I was growing up, if your blood sugar was high, then I'd have to pee on these ketone
Right.
strips to see if I had it and see if I had ketones for that reason. So
Right.
yeah, I'm never gonna do that again. Now that
I did it when and I still have the original container of ketone strips that I had bought when I was really testing, but I was always about the same, and I think now I don't. It's still, I would still say it's a ketogenic diet. I don't focus on it though,
Yeah.
so I don't add extra fat to my diet because I never noticed any additional energy boost from adding fat to my diet. I think this is just how I run. I run a very low carb diet. It's all meat and vegetables. It actually looks probably more paleo than anything.
Yeah.
Lots of meat, lots of vegetables, seeds and nuts, no sugar at all. The only carbohydrates I get is from vegetables, or they sneak them into cottage cheese or something. Dairy doesn't seem to affect me in any way, so I'll take that in. But I'm not crazy about it. I think once I got to a point where I knew that I felt okay, there was less of a sense of urgency to make sure that I was being super strict.
Yeah.
And now I'll still go out and we'll if what I'll do is if we go out for sushi or something and I have a couple rolls, I'll go home and test myself and I'm still in ketosis.
Really?
I don't think I don't even think my body uses it anymore. It's just like, oh, let's just shit this out,
Yeah, right. Just run this straight through.
Right. So it's very rarely that I'm not at least throwing moderate ketones,
Yeah.
which is, I think that's just the way I run. But for years I was so heavily carb laden. It's funny when you talk to people, and you have them give them their 5-day rundown of what they're eating.
Yeah.
It's a lot of these people, especially the ones that are having a hard time, they have an almost all carb based diet.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's really funny. There's if you ever are in a Giant Eagle or a grocery store or something like that, take a look at. There's always these the little magazines that are up there. There's a publication. It's called it's diabetes something.
Yeah.
I've never read it because of what I'm about to say. And the cover, it's like Diabetes Weekly or Diabetic something, it's always a picture of food, and it's always like a cake, and it'll say here's a low carb cake recipe or something like that. Which we use Splenda instead of sugar, so instead of 90 grams of carbs in this piece of cake, there's only 45. It's like, why? But never is the picture at no time is the picture ever just a piece of salmon and something's for
That's pretty boring.
Right? Yeah. It's why not have the advice be okay, you should eat meat and eggs and vegetables, as opposed to it's like when people go gluten free, they just start buying gluten free muffin mix, as opposed to just
they don't change their habits.
Just have some. I don't know, just have some fruit and some steak.
That's the thing is when people go low carb or keto or whatever, the first thing they want is recipes. Well, I need recipes. Just eat meat and vegetables. You're fine.
Yeah.
That'll do you. But people want to have these, fancy, keto bombs and keto cheesecake, and it's just like, Jesus, just switch your diet and be disciplined, and you can add some of that stuff in later. But you're gonna fail if you're looking to eat the way you've always ate and still be ketogenic. You're just gonna fail. You're not getting rid of all those cravings you have.
For sure. Yeah. At my old job, we were at lunch one time, and there was this girl who she was from a different office, and she was just in town, and she started complaining. And she was overweight objectively, and she started complaining. She's about how she had to eat or something. She's like, well, I'm gonna have a salad because that's what my doctor said. And I didn't really ask, but she just kept going, and she was complaining that she was diagnosed as diabetic,
Right.
pre-type 2 diabetic, and so she started complaining about this like new diet that she had to eat. And I never said anything, but I'm sitting there thinking like, I would give anything to be a type
fat fuck.
I would give anything just to be a type 2 diabetic, to be able to and have the option to cure myself with like diet and exercise.
And just
like,
being eating like a normal human should, instead of just being a gluttonous fat ass all the time.
It's like my mouth shut and I just.
I mean, how many people eat themselves in this? I mean, we went to Universal Studios in Christmas time this year, and just walk. And the myth that Americans are overweight is, maybe that's not a myth, but there were plenty of foreign people there, these foreign fuckers that were also big giant fat people. It was just a host of pre-diabetic people from ride to ride all the way across the whole place.
They're giving out metformin. Like the diabetes drug.
Should have done that.
Popping it like candy.
They should have had booths set up, because you had the booths for the cotton candy and the corn dogs, and they should have had the metformin booth too as well. But
it's not and even metformin. So that, it's the drug that they prescribe to type 2 diabetics, which makes you more sensitive to insulin. And it's like been clinically proven to be half as effective as like an hour of exercise per day, which is like insane that it's less effective, but still like that's the leading.
It's amazing to me that people will go to the drug as fast as they do.
It's sometimes not their problem. It's given to them immediately.
Yeah.
Like I was, I get like full like lipid blood tests every 3 months.
What's your cholesterol? What's the average cholesterol? Please tell me it's over 250.
No, I mean it's in like good range actually.
I just had mine checked. It was
250.
Okay,
so that's part of this. That's part of the story though. Is when I was in college at one point, like my cholesterol would always be fine. And at one time I went and it was high. And like without even having like any discussion, my doctor just says, so this is your cholesterol number, so I'm prescribing you, this drug. Is it I'm blanking. What's the name of like the
Lasix? The statin drugs?
No, statins. Yeah. So it's like I'm prescribing you these statins. Side effects include muscular soreness, muscle loss, and it's like all these terms that start with like bad things for muscles, and I'm sitting there thinking like, there's no way in hell I'm ever gonna take one of these. And so I didn't really feel like having the argument, so I just like I took it and left the office and just threw it in the dumpster on my way out. And I went back 3 months later and I never took it, and my cholesterol was fine.
Yeah.
So it's like they're so quick to diagnose that, and at no point did diet or exercise ever even enter the conversation.
And in their defense, they probably know that 90% of the people that walk in their office aren't going to do the diet and exercise route. I'm gonna right before I got because I was being an arrogant fuckhead, right before I took my test, I had gone on the full carnivore diet for like 3.5 weeks, just nothing but meat,
red meat,
bacon grease, and I was at 250. So I mixed in a couple of vegetables.
Your body weight or your cholesterol?
Both were right there.
It's good to keep those the same.
You wanted them to be right. So I'm gonna the deal I struck with my wife, who, in her defense, being a nurse, could have been a huge pain in the ass, but she was, she's learned to deal with me over the times, and I can be a grumpy fucker. So we kind of came to the conclusion that I would play with my diet a little bit more and see if I could lower it myself, because I really don't want to do the statin drugs. I mean, that's like everything you said with the muscle fatigue, muscle soreness, muscle loss, and it's like, Jesus Christ, I don't want anything to do with that.
So what do you like? What's the plan?
The plan is not eating like an asshole. Basically, controlling portion size and getting off the full carnivore diet and start mixing in vegetables again. Basically, I was eating before, and then again, not going crazy keto where I'm adding in extra fat intake, and just kind of seeing where that takes me.
Yeah. The trouble I had was like anytime I tried to drop weight, I would add in like tons of vegetables, and it would just like really like mess with you. if anyone's tried to eat like an entire bag of like broccoli before, it's like a giant bag. It's,
Yeah.
It's like it messes with your stomach way more than
Oh,
any type of meat.
That's absolutely true. You get that influx of fiber right off the bat.
So like anytime anytime I was trying to lose weight, you just try to eat more vegetables, but that would like it's just hard to do. So yeah, I found that just increasing fat,
Yeah.
fat protein.
I just think I think I jacked mine up with that carnivore diet, and I was I can go down the rabbit hole of portion size where I mean at one time I was 310 pounds and I would kill a buffet. I mean just just murder it, and every once in a while I'll go down that route, and but now I do it with healthier choices, but I'll still eat like an asshole. But I'm gonna try it and just see. I told her I would go back and test it in June and see where we are from there. But I'm not willing to take the statin drugs. I just don't. And I've got a buddy who just had a heart attack at 40 years of age. So
really,
yeah, he was. Now he had a congenital heart problem, but before he had the heart attack, his doctor's like, yeah, your cholesterol's a little high. We need to get you on statins, and he refused to. And then like 6 months later, he had a heart attack. So
I think the research behind like even just like a baby aspirin per day or something like that is even
I'm on those.
Is more okay. That's like clinically proven to help a lot.
I had a blood clot in May and went on Eliquis for about 6 months, and then basically just decided I was just going to go to a baby aspirin, and I'll stay on those forever. I mean, not a big deal to take a baby aspirin. I'm also taking some fish oil and seeing if that'll help out a little bit. But at least 250 isn't insane. I mean, I've had buddies that were in the threes, so we'll see where that goes. But
yeah, it's almost good in strongman that the like in powerlifting, the weight classes are so close together.
Yeah.
Whereas in powerlifting, you're either at 220 or 230 or somewhere around there.
Right.
Or then it jumps to like 275. And for me, the jump to 275 is just, it's such a high jump.
It's huge.
That like I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So it like encourages me just to stay right around 225, so then I can compete at 220 or 231 if it's like 110 kilograms or around 115 kilograms or.
That my first experience with nationals was doing USS nationals, and I show up at ready for the 242 class, and I get down there and they're like, oh, we don't have any other 242s. You're gonna have to go with the heavies and super heavies because they didn't have any.
The unlimited, like.
Right, so they didn't have enough 242s. They didn't have enough heavies, and they didn't have enough super heavies. So they just lumped us all together. Yeah. So here I am. I've been really strict with my diet. I'm coming in at like 239, 240. I felt great, but obviously not. I've been kind of holding back, and I go in there, and I'm literally 100 pounds less than some of these guys. I mean, it was still a good time, and I wasn't expecting to win regardless. But you're right. That is a huge jump, and you think, oh yeah, I'm a strong guy at 242. Yeah. But when you're dealing with a guy who's 100 pounds heavier than you are,
it's a big deal.
And that's a big jump, like you said, from 220 to 275.
It's like I would have to buy a whole new wardrobe. Like none of my pants would fit. I don't want to have to do that.
What's cool about strongman with the weight classes is that you can look like a fairly normal human being and not be. What drives me nuts is some of these guys who still embrace this. I'm a strongman, so I can be super fat. No, you don't need to do that. We'll pull that weight off you, and maybe you'll drop a weight class, but who's the difference? You're not Thor. You're not a naturally 400-pound guy. We can drop you down to the 270 class. You're gonna look great and feel great. And I think it's just another level of laziness that people don't want to do that though. That
like when you're in public and you can play the game Fat or Powerlifter. You're like a Universal Studios. The guy's like waddling around. It's like he's either a powerlifter or he's just fat.
Yeah. Well, that used to be the big thing with geared powerlifting that really turned me off when because I was in Highland Games, so I was always like in the circle with these guys, but I wasn't part of powerlifting or part of strongman or Olympic lifting, and you would see these geared powerlifters that looked like garbage because they were eating into their gear, you know.
So it's a weird it's a weird segment of the sport. I don't know.
And there's still, I mean, now they're clinging onto that geared power, those geared power.
Yeah,
clinging.
I've never really been exposed to it at all, other than like seeing the YouTube videos and stuff like that. But I've been to Old School Iron a couple times, which is the gym by the airport.
Yeah.
And I'm like in the back corner doing some Atlas stones or something, and there's like still this this old school training crew of like geared powerlifters, and actually all the guys are they're actually like pretty small.
Right.
Those guys at least, but they all have like all this gear on. They're squatting like 700 pounds, but it's literally like a quarter squat.
Yeah.
And I don't
in gear.
And like, who am I to only God can judge them.
Yeah.
But I don't understand. They're like just screaming at each other and then all slapping each other on the back because they just squatted 700 pounds like 4 inches total. Like
it's their
it's
trip.
just like self.
It's masturbation.
Yeah, it's like they're just like this circle jerk
Right.
of guys proud of each other for.
It's their trip. And that's what they do. And I don't ever begrudge anybody for any kind of lifting, but you can't compare it. And you see these stupid memes all the time on Facebook where Olympic squats versus powerlifting squats and how high it's like it's like comparing horse racing to NASCAR. They're two complete. Yes, they're both racing, but they're two completely different segments of the population. And I have one of our sponsored athletes is Kylie Ray Craig, who is a 400-pound squatter at like 140 pounds, and she's super jacked. But then we also interviewed Heidi Hauer on here, who's like a 700-pound or almost 700-pound squatter at the same body weight in gear.
Yeah.
Both of them are strong broads, super strong broads.
Yeah, it's not worth comparing.
Completely different sport, you know. But I think there are these last bastions of geared powerlifting, just clinging to whatever's left of that. It's I can't even imagine doing that because it'd be such a pain in the ass to get gear on and get gear off, and I don't have that attention span to do something like that.
Yeah, my training sessions are long enough as they are. I don't want to ever do that.
You're looking at 2.5 hours of training every day. Who has time for that?
Yeah.
And we've got a girl, former Westside girl in here now who I love her to death. Great girl. And she came in, and the first few months she was in here, she was having people get her into gear, and now she's slowly just getting rid of it. And it's got to be hard, though. You watch your lifts go from 600 pounds to 400 pounds.
Sure. Probably just be like losing weight or something like that.
Right. You just got to bite the bullet and realize that now you're in a different sport. You're playing water polo now instead of polo on a horse.
Yep.
It's a little bit different.
Yeah. So the next thing I'm going to do is probably your Highlander, the national.
National championships. Yep.
Yeah. So like last year when I did it, I just trained normally and then 3 times practiced. Like, how do I throw a stone? I think the first time you showed me, I literally fell down with the brain stone. And so like this year, I'm gonna figure out a way to make it a little bit more structured and like my throwing and stuff like that. And
I think every year we get more and more people, especially from in here, that do it. So you can get in with these training groups.
Yeah.
That just come
so
in,
I'll have
grab
to do
the shit
that,
and
or
go.
I don't know. I guess I'll take some free training advice if you if you have.
We're going to have Steve Schmidt up this year. He's getting into Highland Games, so he's going to throw with me a little bit, and you're more than welcome to come out and throw with me. I'm going to do a Highland Games in June here, Masters Highland Games.
Where is that?
Why the fuck I'm doing it.
Where is it?
Just here in Wellington, Ohio.
Oh, because you went to Iceland.
Yeah.
Last year, right?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And I would probably go, there's some rumors that 2019 will be in Ireland.
Have you been to Ireland?
I've never been to Ireland.
It's awesome.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, my brother and I went in 2012 or something like that.
Just for a vacation? Or?
Yeah. Yeah, it was like I recently graduated college, and I wasn't supposed to start full-time working for like 4 months or something like that. But then they called me up early and said, like, hey, we're really busy. Can you start like almost immediately? But if you have a vacation planned, or something like that, we'll give you the time off. And so I said, oh, yeah, I do have that vacation planned. So I called my brother and, said, like, let's go somewhere. So we went to, we just drove around. We just wandered around Ireland for a week. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
that's fantastic.
You'll have a blast. Where is it? Do you know?
You know what? It's all these details are sketchy. They try to
Yeah.
keep it quiet, but then these details got leaked. Actually, 2 years ago in Iceland, we got it leaked out. But this year it's in Stuttgart. I really didn't have that much of an interest in going to Stuttgart, but
I don't even know where that is.
Germany.
Oh, it's in Germany. Okay.
So the idea was that we would go to Ireland and Scotland because I wanted to lift the manhood stones.
Yeah.
Well, we had Tom Stroke on here a couple weeks ago. His podcast is coming out pretty soon. And Tom was talking about getting a group of 10 or 12 guys to go over there and just spend the week traveling around Scotland, lifting all the manhood stones,
Yeah.
and then going out and having dinner and getting shit-faced every night. And I would be the old man of that group, but that sounds like an epic trip to me. So
Yeah, that'd be fun. I would love to compete somewhere else in the world.
yeah.
I think it'd be really fun.
Go to Iceland.
Yeah. So my brother currently lives in Amsterdam, so he's told me, he's like, just let me know and I'll meet you there. And
yeah. What's he doing in Amsterdam?
He's an accountant.
Okay.
Yeah, he and I went. Like I said, we went to Ireland, and then we hiked the Incan Trail in Peru.
I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah, and so then after school, he started doing all this travel. He basically got bit by a travel bug, and he's like a savant at like credit card points, and he's got like, I don't know, can sign up for 10 credit cards in one day,
right.
And he doesn't have any debt, obviously, but he
right.
just like knows everything about them, how to get the points, and so he was like flying to Australia for 2 weeks for free basically.
Wow.
And so he lives over there now, and I was over there in November. But yeah, we did Peru back in.
Tell me about that, because that was the last thing we talked about before I was on my way to Tulum, and you were talking about Peru and going to see the ruins down there. So how'd that happen?
Yeah, it's awesome. I would recommend it to anyone. We spent about 10 days in Peru. You fly into Lima, which I think is the only international airport there, and then but then you're in Cusco. Cusco is at like 14,000 feet.
Wow.
So you get there and you have altitude sickness immediately.
Wow. Yeah.
And so like Denver, what is 5,000 feet? So
Mm-hmm.
you're at 14,000 feet right off the bat.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to take like the first 48 hours to normalize to the altitude.
Yeah.
So we smartly decided to go mountain biking immediately.
Of course.
Yeah. And so we were like, they drive us up in these like shoddy vans, like a bus thing from, I don't know, the 1970s, and we just keep getting higher into the mountains. And then they drop us off in this like field, and we have like our bike guide or something like that. And at the top, we're just in this field, so it looks very safe. But they're handing out these like, everyone's got helmets and like elbow pads and knee pads. I'm like, okay, I don't want to be a dork riding and then, but I put them on because I didn't know what like everyone else was.
Sure,
like, okay,
yeah.
I'll put these stupid pads on, and then you start going, and it like very quickly you're going down like the steepest hill you've ever seen, like around these rocks and things like that. And I remember you were bike riding down, and then our tour guide was something like, okay, the next section, very steep, very rocky, be careful. Oh, okay. And so we go down this, and then he's like, okay, now this next section, very steep,
varying degrees.
Yeah, it's like, and then that happened. Okay, and now this next section, much steeper, much more dangerous. And then the next section, he didn't even say anything. He just started walking around and checking everyone's brakes.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? But anyway, so that was
eventually you're just creating off a waterfall.
Yeah. I'm just gonna roll down the rest of the way. So then maybe 2 days later, we started the Incan Trail hike, which is I think it's about a 30-mile hike.
Wow.
Over 4 days, which isn't a lot of like horizontal distance.
Sure.
But you're going up in elevation and down in elevation.
Yeah.
Like you might start at like, I don't know what it is, 10,000 feet, and then get up to 15,000, and then back down to 11, and
What's
then
the
up to.
terrain like? I mean,
It's crazy because it changes like drastically. So some of it is almost like a jungle. In the sun, it's real like humid, and then you can go like on the other side of a mountain, and it's desert-ish, and it's like
Uh-huh.
real rocky, but it is there's a lot of like foliage and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I know, for instance, if you were to ever hike Mount Kilimanjaro, which I have not, but I would like to. It's pretty barren.
Right.
Like, there's not much to look at. It's just rocks. But in Peru, it's there's tons of trees, and I claim to have seen a toucan. No one believes me, but there are toucans down there. There's a bunch of alpaca.
Yeah.
And so
Just wild alpaca? Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's over 4 days, and you like pass these ruins. All along the way, you have
This is Inca, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Inca Trail. So you end up at Machu Picchu.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the final destination, and you have like a team of porters or like Sherpas.
Yeah.
Or these awesome but miniature Peruvian men.
Right.
So like some of them don't even speak. They speak the ancient Incan language.
Yeah.
And they're all chewing on coca leaves.
Right.
Which is pretty cool. So every morning you wake up and you have some like coca tea. So these are the leaves that are used to make cocaine.
Sure. Yeah.
But the leaves themselves don't have any of the qualities of cocaine, but they do. Like you can just chew on them throughout the day. You like as if you were chewing tobacco or something like that. And it's kind of like you get a little buzz off it. It's supposed to help with altitude sickness. It's a pretty strong like buzz. It's somewhere between like caffeine and it's not as strong as like nicotine or
it's
something like
that. It's a natural pick-me-up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so you chew those all day. By like mid-afternoon, your tongue will start going numb. So I was like, okay, probably should stop chewing this now.
Right.
And it's a great way to do it because as you one of the probably most like prominent memories in my mind, like one of the best days of my life actually is, as I look back at it, is like on the third day you're starting to get like really really tired, and you wake up in the morning at the bottom of this mountain, and then they like point to the top of this cliff, and they're like, okay, that's where lunch is. I'm like, I gotta go up there in the next like 5 hours.
Yeah.
But so at the end of the like third day, it's you're exhausted, but you end up at this awesome ruin. I don't know what the name of the ruins are, and it's just so cool because there's these huge ruins and no one in the world can see it.
Yeah.
Like you have to have hiked all of that way, and that's the only way you can see it. And so we just like sit down there. There's this like waterfall. There was a rainbow coming out of this waterfall, and like there was like 6 buddies or 5 buddies and me. We just like sat down and just kind of like took it all in. It was great. And then you eventually get to Machu Picchu, which is really cool in terms of like the ruins, but the difference is it's accessible to the general public. So you can take a train directly to Machu Picchu, and so then you get there in the morning, and you arrive. You smell like shit.
Yeah, right.
You're so you haven't showered in 4 days.
Yeah.
You haven't used like a regular bathroom. You've been living on the trail, and you get there, and then there's all these overweight people with
all the
like
type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, right.
Came from Orlando.
And you just like you can't help but feel like you deserve to see this. Like, get out of the way. Like, I want to take a picture of this because I deserve to see this.
That's amazing. They should get you there at a certain time where you're the only ones there.
You do actually. So you wake up the final day. You wake up at like 4 a.m. or something like that, and then you hike. And so the intent is to get to something called the Sun Gate when the sun is rising. So it's this like overlook that looks over Machu Picchu as the sun is rising.
Amazing.
When we did it, it was super foggy, so we didn't.
Oh.
And I almost I did fall off a cliff that day because we were like going down this trail. And it's like 4:30 a.m. or something like that. It's incredibly foggy out. You're wearing like headlamps, and you can't see 3 feet.
Is that a normal weather condition?
Yeah, I think it is. It tends to get pretty foggy on certain sides of the mountain or whatever. And we're trying to pass this group in front of us because we want to get to the Sun Gate before them. So it's kind of like a race. So there's this guy in front of me. I take one step to the right to like pass him, and my foot just touches nothing.
Oh my God.
And I just fall, and so I have to like throw my arms to the left to catch like the edge of this
holy
thing.
Shit.
And my a couple buddies helped me up, and we have to this day I have no idea if I would have fallen like 8 feet or like 800 feet.
800.
I have no
right?
idea.
Holy shit.
Yeah. But we
Wow.
eventually get there.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. And
What's the do you know the history behind Machu Picchu? What it was Incan civilization. Are those the interlocking blocks? Is that or is that that may be Palenque?
I don't know about that. A lot of Machu Picchu was their religious temple and things like
Right.
that. So every year, the people would make like a pilgrimage or whatever from anywhere in Peru, but primarily from Cusco to Machu Picchu. So that's kind of like the same trail that we would follow, which is same one that they would follow. All of the Incan stuff. I don't know if this is the same for all the Aztecs or Mayans or whatever too, but all their stuff is like stepped.
Step pyramids.
So like any of their structures really, because of how mountainous it is too. But for instance, they grew a lot of potatoes. I think I think it's potatoes, and they would grow it at different elevations intentionally to have different versions of potatoes. So in as little as like 10 feet difference. So like their farms were like built into the side of the mountains like steps, and they would grow these things at different levels.
Yeah, that's
so a lot of the structures have that like similar look to them where it's all stepped.
Yeah. We went to Tulum, and Tulum was amazing. But one of the things, and I had just talked to you before we left, and that was one of the things that bummed me out about it, is I wish I could have got there at dawn or right before sunset or something, and just it would be as far as tourist dollars, probably not a great idea, but I would have loved to have been the only two people in that place. I mean, I think I'm very big into that stuff, and I think you would have heard voices. I just think that if you were quiet enough, long enough, the energy there, even all the people there, was amazing.
Yeah.
And you're walking along these ruins that are, hundreds, some people will say even 1,000 years old, and just thinking about the people that walked these same paths, way before you, and how little we really know about them, and amazing stuff. I want to see as many of those as possible.
Yeah. Well, agreed. I would recommend the Inca Trail for sure. And
I don't know, man. I'm not much of a camper. I like mints on the pillow, and I might be one of the fat asses on the bus.
So they, I mean, it is somewhat like luxury camping, because you have these, porters or Sherpas that they make you dinner.
Do you just do? Come boy, right. And they just bring you food.
If only I could speak more Spanish or something like that.
Well, one of the things, like you mentioned, and I didn't realize any of this. So when we were in Tulum, what we heard from the guides was this different language outside of Spanish, and I didn't realize that the people there are still speaking this Yucateca Mayan language,
and sure.
They get very offended if you talk to them about the Mayans disappearing, and we're still here. We're not Spanish, we're Maya,
Yeah.
And I never had any
it's a really
notion
cool
of that.
Yeah, the guys we were with were just incredible, because the tallest one was maybe 4'11".
Wow.
And they're carrying our stuff. I mean, I probably had like maybe a 40-pound pack on with like my clothes and my water and my stuff.
Right.
But they were carrying like the tents and the foods and things like this. And they are wearing shoes made out of tire. Like, they're not even wearing shoes. They're wearing sandals that are made out of like car tires.
Right.
And they're carrying these huge packs, and they do not get tired.
Yeah.
They're really incredible.
That's amazing how those people evolve.
Some of them call me like El Toro, the bull. But I think really they were just calling me fat. But it was like very patronizing. I was like, oh, thank you. And then they're all like laughing. And I'm like, I think you're making fun of me, but I don't know.
Oh, I mean, we were in Mexico. They were fucking with me. Everywhere I went was Mr. Clean or Rambo or all this stuff. And I'm just like, Jesus. Aaron just thought that was the funniest fucking thing ever.
It's pretty funny.
They'll just bust your balls. Did the same thing to me in in Jamaica when we were there. They just jump on you and it's on. They're just gonna whatever action star comes to mind, they're gonna fuck with you with. But I think it is. It's just a polite way of calling you a fat guy.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, but that would be. I'm like I said, I would love to see more ruins and it amazes me that, relatively speaking, they're so close. They're attached by a land bridge to us.
Yeah.
We had a guy on the show last month. I think his episode comes out here in a couple weeks. Jason Jarrell, who is a expert in Indian burial mounds, and he had written a book called The Ages of Giants, where they were talking about and he has documentation in the book from newspapers and scientific journals of these giant skeletons that were pulling out of these burial grounds just here in Ohio and West Virginia.
Yeah.
And they're talking when the average size human was 5'4", 5'3", as far as the Native Americans were concerned, they were pulling 7-foot or 7-foot skeletons out of these burial grounds. And it wasn't like they were all that way, but every burial ground had one or two of these guys in a seated position. So everyone else was buried in a normal lying position, but they would have these guys in seated positions in these burial mounds. And he was talking about the eugenics movement in the United States at that time, and how it was being pushed by a lot of politicians and a lot of scientists that the white European Germanic type people were this master race that were just they would actually rank the races by intelligence and head size. Well, they find these giant Native American skeletons with these gigantic heads, and to the point where some of the scientific journals were saying that they could almost place the skull over top of their own skull. They were that large, and it ruined their whole eugenics concept. So a lot of that was kind of squashed down, so you don't hear about it, but they're still there. He had all like the old newspaper clippings. And
what is the theory behind these giants? Just that there were.
So when we talked to him, I after reading his book, I kind of asked him. I said, when I think of North America after reading your book, and into South America and even into the Pacific Islands, I look at something, for lack of a better term, Lord of the Rings-ish, where you have different types of humanoids still existing in this place that really hasn't been touched by European hands yet. So you have these people that were 7 and 8 feet tall, and you have these people that were 4 feet tall, and these hobbits that you're finding in these Australian islands and stuff. And he said, yeah, that's exactly the way I see it, whereas you had different species of humans still coexisting in the Americas not too long after Columbus had got there. And once the Europeans started coming in, they started to die out, and the Europeans were killing them. But he said that was one of the reasons why the Vikings didn't flow too far into the mainland, was they were coming across for the first time ever these races of people that were much, much larger than them. Whereas that had always been their bread and butter when they had gone south into Europe and these other southern European countries, where they were 6 feet tall, where everyone else there was 5'5". You know, and it was a very interesting podcast. He's actually coming up here in June or July, I think, and we're going to look at some burial grounds here in Lorain County that I didn't even know existed.
So. What did you say? What's his book called?
It's called The Ages of Giants.
I'll have to check that out. I'll put it on my book list.
It's very textbooky, I mean, it's not a easy read, but it's very interesting. You know, especially the accounts. The accounts are the most amazing parts. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a good fiction reader anyway, so that sounds kind of up my alley.
Yeah, I'll bounce back and forth. What are you reading now?
See, I just finished a book on the Iceman killer. Are you familiar with him?
Oh, the
Richard
what's his name?
Kuklinski?
Etsy? Oh no, wait, I'm thinking about the Iceman in the Alps that they found.
Oh no. He was a contract killer for the mafia in Jersey, New York. Yeah, he was called the Iceman. His name is Richard Kuklinski. I think he's still alive. I think he's still in jail. So he was a contract killer. I love the mafia, by the way. It's like one of my favorite genres.
Sure. Yeah.
Whether it's like watching The Sopranos or Peaky Blinders or
Peaky Blinders. That was
or like
the beginning was from Peaky
yeah,
Blinders.
Yeah, I like that quote. But yeah, he was. So Richard Kuklinski was a Polish guy, and he just was like a crazy serial killer that made it into a profession. So and he was around like the same time as like the Goodfellas when Goodfellas is based.
Yeah.
So there's actually some scenes in Goodfellas where Richard Kuklinski was the guy that carried out some of these.
Oh no shit.
Some of these like killings, yeah. And so the book, one of these journalists, did tons of interviews with this guy. He's still, I think he's still in jail. I'm not sure if he died yet. It's not like he's ever getting out of jail.
Yeah, right.
But like he killed, he estimates like almost 1,000 people.
Wow.
And so he
1,000. Jesus.
He was Polish, so he wasn't ever able to get in the mafia.
Uh-huh.
But all of the 5 families in New York and New Jersey used him, and so his niche was the fact that he couldn't be in the mafia, so therefore he didn't have any allegiance. So he was just like the guy, and he had a family and kids and would host like neighborhood barbecues, and was somewhat normal, ish. And then like he would, for instance, go to the shady parts of New York City and just kill homeless people to like basically to practice his craft. And he would do it with
killer.
Oh yeah, I mean he's maybe the most prominent serial killer ever. And he would for instance kill everyone in different methods, so none of them were ever linked.
Right.
So he would kill someone with a screwdriver over here, and then shoot someone in the face over here, and then stab someone else over here. He's called the Iceman because on a few occasions if he killed someone in the winter, he would like stick them in this well that would like freeze, and then he would take them out in the summer and just like lay them somewhere because there's like no evidence at that time. You couldn't have done any like DNA evidence.
Testing or anything like
he would it's really crazy. I don't know why I find that fascinating. It was crazy.
It's stuff that you always put yourself in the scenarios, and you're any of those mafia type things, and you're thinking to yourself, once you're in and you've gotten yourself, you're in that group, that brotherhood, and any slip up you make means your life, and the pressure that must have been on you just to be in those groups must have been so intense, and it was, I think, balanced out by the amount of money and prestige those guys had. But that's where always I go with them is like, man, what would have been like to have been running with Jimmy and Tommy and those guys in Goodfellas, and how stressful that would have been,
Yeah, it's nuts.
Did you are you familiar with Danny Green and the podcast we did with him with Rick Perillo, Kill the Irishman?
Yeah, I didn't listen to the pod. I'm generally familiar with it. I that's on the list of like things to
check
read.
out Rick's book.
Yeah.
Rick Perillo was the guy who came on the podcast, and he was the one who wrote To Kill the Irishman. It was a fantastic book. Really, really good. And we just did that St. Patty's Day T-shirt with Danny Green on the back of it, and he was some kind of heroic, mythical type guy in Cleveland. He had plenty of faults, but he was this. For a while there, I mean, most of it was probably luck, but he was an unkillable guy. I mean, the mafia was desperate to kill this guy; they just could not get the job done. But yeah, Rick was a really interesting guy, and he's coming out with a book, I believe, on Shonda Burns, who was a Cleveland gangster. And we've had enough of them around here to fill a mini series or a movie and other ones. So what's been going on? What's up next for you? You're gonna do the Highlander, right? You do anything in between there, or?
Like I was saying, I might do your Memorial Day thing.
Yeah.
If I don't, I have potentially going on a dirt biking trip in Moab, Utah. So if I do that, yeah.
Like motorcycles though, not mountain bikes.
Yeah, I've done a couple trips in Baja, Mexico. Like down the coast there. So I
just read a book on a guy who went down that way. And
have you ever heard of the Baja 1000?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like those trails.
They do that in all different kinds of vehicles, right? It's like dune buggies and trucks.
Right. Yeah. So anything from like a 1970s Volkswagen Beetle
Right.
to like 850 horsepower, what they call trophy trucks,
Uh-huh.
and then dirt bikes and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've seen videos of that before.
it's pretty crazy. You know, you're like on the edge of the world. There's another one is places where you can only get to some of these places on a dirt bike.
Yeah.
Like at one point, probably 2 years ago. Yeah, so you fly into San Diego, you drive south across the border into Ensenada,
Mm-hmm.
and you rent these dirt bikes, and then you have like a tour guide and stuff like that, and you ride about 150 miles every day through the trails and on sand dunes and through forests and stuff like that, and then every day you arrive in like a new little Mexican village, and you drink margaritas and tequila and eat tacos and party, and then you go to bed and do it all the same the next day.
You're living the life, man. Jesus Christ.
So, some fun trips. But I was at one point we were, because I was saying, places like you can only get through, if you're dirt biking or if you're like hiking or something like that. But there, I was like looking at the map we were going to go on, and the line goes right over this lake. I'm like, well, obviously we're going to go around that lake. And they're like, no, we're going to go through. I'm like, we're not going to go through this lake. So you get there, the lake's 100% dry.
Uh-huh.
So there's just like this dirt.
Yeah, like a basin, yeah.
Right. And it's like real salty, but it's totally flat. Because typically when you're down there, you're winding through these trails and like there's cactuses so you're not going that fast. And also you can't see because there's dust from the guy in front of you. But then you get to this wide, imagine as far as you can see, it's just 100% flat.
Right.
And so then you have all 10 of us that are just wide open on the throttle going across this. It's like something out of not Road. What's the Tom Hardy just started?
Oh yeah, the Fury Road. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like something out of that.
Right.
And you're like going across this thing. But anyway,
God, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. But anyway, you get to like halfway across this lake is this little shack, and there's this. I think he was like 85. This 85-year-old little Mexican man who has this little shack.
Uh-huh.
He has like a 40-year-old pickup truck. He has a generator, and he sells Coca-Cola. And like you can either get Coca-Cola or like a thing of M&Ms. Like,
right.
And that's it. Like that's his whole existence is that like maybe once a day there will be a group of off-roaders that will pass his little shack and he can sell them. He has 20 Coca-Colas total.
Right.
And so we bought everything he had to offer.
That made his day. Just buy all his Coca-Colas and that's keep it up, man. Just keep that traveling going. I think that's Aaron and I talk about that all the time, that we want to live the most minimal existence possible and just see as much shit as possible. I think that's important. And I got to I tell this to people all the time, is one of the best things that happened to me is I grew up in this little shitty town. Not that it's a shitty town, but Amherst was a very small 5,000 person community. It was a little rednecky. I grew up as a redneck kid, and listening to Hank Jr. and that kind of stuff. But when I got out of high school and got to start traveling with the Highland Games and got to see.
Is that what it was? The Highland Games?
Oh yeah.
I
never would have got to see half the places or most of the places I got to see, but all of a sudden, they're paying you to go to Calgary, Alberta, and San Francisco, and all these crazy places, Nova Scotia and Iceland, and it's just you got to see so much and see different people living different ways outside of your little redneck bedroom community. That I recommend it to people highly. Is you will change your attitude about life and about people, and if it doesn't change your philosophy on politics and religion and music and art, then you're not doing it right. There's so much to learn out there, and we're so dumb when we sit in our little living rooms in our communities and just deal with people who are just like us, and get out and meet these people.
I travel, somewhat. Like if I'm lucky, I'll do like one, big trip a year or something like that. But I'm lucky to, that my brother and I have some close friends that travel a ton. So I feel like
get in, keep doing
I
it.
feel like I don't do that much compared to them, but luckily they
And you're doing, but the ones you're doing are amazing. You're not going to Disney World. You're seeing some incredible stuff. And I'm with you. I'd like to do the Australia thing here soon. And a good friend of mine, Matthew Damien, who does most of the IT stuff for this, is actually moving here to be with his fiance. But I said, man, we got to go. All four of us will go and we'll check it out.
Yeah.
You'll be our tour guide.
Yeah, I think the plan, again, because my brother's in Amsterdam, and the cool thing over there is he can take like a weekend trip to Dublin, or he went to Berlin last weekend just for so. I'll probably just meet him somewhere in the world in the fall.
Like that's fantastic.
That's as much planning as we've done at this point.
Love
but
it.
that's as much planning as we need.
That's amazing.
So
keep it up, man. Well, this has been great. We need to do this again. We'll get you back on the show, and we'll talk more, especially if you go somewhere. And when's your trip to Baja, or not to Baja, to the Moab?
Memorial Day weekend.
If you do that, we'll definitely get you on after that one, and we'll talk more about this stuff.
Awesome.
All right, brother. It's been great talking to you. This has been Dollar Bill Boyer. All right. It's been the Refined Savage. See ya.